My parents sent my daughter a gift for her 8th birthday. When she opened it, she froze completely, then looked up at me and whispered, "Mommy, what is this supposed to be?" When I saw what was inside that innocent-looking package, I realized my parents had been planning something horrific for months. And when I discovered the truth behind their gift, I never trusted them around my child again. My name is Rebecca Martinez, and I'm 33 years old. I live in a modest 2-bedroom apartment in Bellingham, Washington, with my daughter Sophia, who just turned 8. It's a quiet college town nestled between the mountains and Puget Sound, the kind of place where you can walk to the farmer's market on Saturday mornings and actually recognize half the vendors by name. The kind of place where people still wave to strangers on hiking trails, and where the biggest crime story in the local paper is usually about someone's garden gnomes going missing. I moved here 5 years ago, after my divorce from Sophia's father, Marcus Chen. He was a good man, just not the right man for either of us. We had one of those amicable splits that everyone says is impossible, but somehow worked for us. Marcus is half Chinese, half Irish, with an engineering mind that could solve any technical problem, but couldn't figure out how to emotionally connect with the people he loved most. He lives in Denver now, works as a software engineer for a green energy company, sends child support religiously every month, and calls Sophia every Sunday evening at exactly 7 p.m. Mountain Time. He's a present father, just not a present partner, and that's perfectly fine with both of us. During those Sunday calls, he helps Sophia with her math homework over video chat, teaches her basic coding concepts that go completely over my head, and listens patiently while she explains her latest obsession with marine biology. He visits twice a year, once in summer for a long weekend, and always for her birthday. Our relationship now is probably better than it ever was when we were married. I work as a freelance marketing consultant, mostly for small businesses scattered across the Pacific Northwest. It's not glamorous work. I help local restaurants optimize their social media presence, design email campaigns for artisan soap makers, and write website copy for family-owned bookstores. But it pays the bills and lets me be home when Sophia gets off the school bus at 3:15 every afternoon, which was the whole point of this life we've built. My office is the corner of our living room, where I've set up a second-hand desk facing the window. From there, I can watch the neighbor's orange tabby cat, Mr. Whiskers, terrorize the local bird population while I answer emails about Instagram strategies and Google Analytics reports. The desk is usually covered with a chaotic mix of client files, Sophia's art projects, empty coffee mugs, and at least 3 different colored pens that never seem to work when I need them most. Our apartment is on the 2nd floor of a converted Victorian house on Maple Street, painted sage green with white trim that the landlord, Mrs. Henderson, repaints every spring like clockwork. We have hardwood floors that creak in all the right places, high ceilings that make our modest space feel larger, and windows that actually open, a luxury I didn't appreciate until I'd lived in too many places with sealed, sterile air. The apartment came partially furnished, which was perfect for a newly divorced woman starting over with a 3-year-old and more debt than assets. The furniture is mismatched but comfortable, a navy blue couch from the previous tenant, a wooden coffee table I found at a garage sale and refinished myself, and a dining table that seats 4, but usually accommodates just the 2 of us and whatever craft project Sophia is working on. Sophia's room is small, but she's made it entirely her own. The walls are covered with her artwork, mostly drawings of sea creatures with scientifically accurate details that amaze me. There's a mobile of paper whales she made last month hanging over her bed, a bookshelf crammed with library books about ocean life, and a desk where she does homework and conducts experiments that usually involve mixing various kitchen ingredients in mason jars. Sophia is everything good about me and nothing bad. She's curious without being nosy, confident without being arrogant, and kind in that unself-conscious way that only children can manage. She has my dark hair, but Marcus's light brown eyes, and she's inherited both of our stubborn streaks, which makes bedtime negotiations feel like international peace talks. She goes to Birchwood Elementary, a small brick building surrounded by tall fir trees that was built in the 1960s and still has that retro institutional charm. Her third-grade teacher, Mrs. Patterson, is one of those rare educators who genuinely seems to love her job and actually remembers not just the names of all her students, but their siblings, their pets, and their current obsessions. Mrs. Patterson was the one who noticed Sophia's fascination with marine life and started bringing in library books about oceanography and marine biology. Sophia's best friends are twins named Zoe and Chloe Morrison, who live 3 blocks away in a yellow house with a front yard full of vegetable gardens. The girls are identical, except for a small scar above Chloe's left eyebrow from a playground accident when they were 5. They share Sophia's love of building elaborate fairy houses out of sticks, moss, and whatever interesting debris they can find around the neighborhood. The three of them spend most afternoons after school roaming the nearby wooded areas, constructing miniature dwellings for creatures they're convinced live just out of sight. They've built an entire fairy village in the empty lot behind the Morrison house, complete with twig furniture, acorn-capped dishes, and intricate walkways made from flat stones. Their parents have learned to expect them home slightly dirty, completely happy, and full of stories about the magical inhabitants of their creations. Our life here is simple, predictable, and exactly what I wanted when I left the chaos of city life behind. We have routines that comfort us both. Tuesday is library day. After school, we walk downtown to the Carnegie Library, a beautiful stone building from 1904 with tall windows and wooden reading tables that have been carved with initials from decades of visitors. Sophia checks out armloads of books about sea life while I browse the new fiction section and usually leave with more books than I'll have time to read. Thursday is pizza night at Romano's, a family-owned Italian place where the owner, Giuseppe, knows our order by heart and always sends an extra breadstick home for tomorrow's lunch. Saturday mornings, we walk to Sweet Dreams Bakery and split a chocolate croissant while Sophia tells me everything she learned about marine biology that week, her current obsession sparked by a field trip to the Seattle Aquarium that happened 6 months ago and continues to fuel her imagination. Sunday afternoons, weather permitting, we hike the trails around Lake Padden or Larrabee State Park. Sophia brings her field notebook, a composition book where she sketches interesting plants and animals we encounter. She's surprisingly good at observational drawing, capturing details that I would never notice. Last week, she spent 20 minutes sketching a banana slug, noting its size, color variations, and the way it moved across a rotting log. These routines anchor us, give shape to our weeks in a way that feels stable and comforting. After the upheaval of divorce and relocation, we both crave predictability. Sophia thrives on knowing what comes next, and honestly, so do I. My parents, Victor and Carmen Delgado, live about 4 hours south of us in Medford, Oregon, a mid-sized city known for its pear orchards and as a gateway to Crater Lake. Dad's 64, retired 3 years ago from his job as a regional manager for Pacific Paper Supply, where he worked for 37 years, starting in the warehouse and slowly climbing the corporate ladder through sheer persistence and attention to detail. Mom, 62, spent most of her career as a dental hygienist at a family practice downtown. She was the kind of hygienist who remembered exactly how long it had been since your last cleaning and whether you'd been flossing regularly, which made her both effective at her job and slightly intimidating to her patients. She retired when Dad did, claiming they wanted to travel, though in the 3 years since, they haven't been anywhere more exotic than the Oregon coast. They live in the same ranch-style house where I grew up, a 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom place built in 1978 in a subdivision called Meadowbrook Estates. It has the same beige carpet throughout, the same fake wood paneling in the basement where I used to practice piano on an old upright that was perpetually out of tune, and the same avocado green appliances in the kitchen that were probably considered stylish when they were installed. The house sits on a 1/4-acre lot with a well-maintained front lawn that Dad mows in precise diagonal patterns every Saturday morning and a backyard dominated by Mom's rose garden, 12 different varieties that she tends with the same methodical care she once applied to dental hygiene. There's a wooden deck off the kitchen where they eat breakfast every morning, reading the local paper, anticipating the weather, local politics, and neighborhood gossip with the measured analysis of people who have plenty of time and not much excitement in their lives. We're not close. Not estranged exactly, but not close. Growing up, they were the kind of parents who provided everything necessary: food, clothes, a roof, rides to school activities, help with homework, but emotional connection was always in short supply. They showed love through logistics rather than affection, through reliability rather than warmth. Dad would spend hours helping me with math homework, patiently explaining algebraic concepts until I understood them, but he never once told me he was proud of me, never celebrated my successes with anything more than a satisfied nod. Mom would sew elaborate Halloween costumes. I remember a particularly impressive mermaid outfit when I was 10 that took her weeks to complete, but she couldn't remember the names of my friends or which activities I actually enjoyed versus which ones I participated in because they'd expected me to. I think they genuinely tried their best, but their best always felt like the emotional equivalent of a firm handshake when what I needed was a hug. They weren't cruel or neglectful. I never doubted that I was fed, housed, and generally cared for. But I also never felt truly seen or understood by them. It was like they were fulfilling a contract rather than building a relationship, checking off boxes on some invisible list of parental responsibilities. Family dinners were quiet affairs where we discussed my grades, upcoming school events, and Dad's work projects, but never feelings, dreams, fears, or anything that required emotional vulnerability. Bedtime was a quick good night from the hallway, not stories or songs or intimate conversations about the day. When I was upset or excited about something, they listened politely but never seemed to truly engage with my emotions. Looking back, I think they simply didn't know how to connect on that level. They'd both grown up in families where emotional expression wasn't encouraged, where love was demonstrated through provision and protection rather than affection and intimacy. They were products of their own upbringing, doing their best with tools they'd never been given. When I graduated high school, they attended the ceremony and took the obligatory photos, but there was no celebration dinner, no expressions of pride or excitement about my future. When I got accepted to college, they helped me move into my dorm room with the same efficiency they'd apply to any household project, methodical, thorough, but somehow devoid of the emotion such moments seemed to call for. During my college years, our communication settled into a pattern of monthly phone calls where we exchanged basic information about health, work, and weather. They attended my wedding to Marcus, gave us a generous but practical gift, a complete set of stainless steel cookware, and seemed relieved when the festivities were over and they could return to their quiet, ordered life. When Sophia was born, I hoped things might change. Grandparent love is supposed to be different, easier, more generous than parental love. The responsibilities are lighter, the stakes lower, the opportunities for pure joy more abundant. I thought maybe becoming grandparents would unlock some emotional reservoir they'd kept closed during my childhood. And for a while, it seemed like it might be. They visited the hospital the day after Sophia was born, bringing the requisite pink flowers and a teddy bear still in its store packaging. Dad held her awkwardly but gently, his large hands careful around her tiny body. Mom took dozens of photos with a disposable camera, muttering about angles and lighting like she was documenting something historic. But as Sophia grew from infant to toddler to little girl, the distance returned. They remembered her birthday and Christmas, usually with practical gifts, like clothes in the next size up or educational toys that emphasized learning over fun. They'd visit maybe twice a year, spend an awkward weekend asking stilted questions about school and hobbies, then drive home with what seemed like visible relief. During those visits, they'd sit stiffly on our couch, watching Sophia play but not joining in, offering commentary on her development like they were observing a science experiment rather than engaging with their granddaughter. "She's very advanced for her age," Mom would say, or "she seems to have good motor skills," as if she were conducting an assessment rather than enjoying time with family. Sophia, being a perceptive kid, picked up on this emotional distance early. She was polite to them, answered their questions with the careful courtesy I'd taught her, thanked them for gifts, but she never developed the easy affection with them that she had with Marcus's parents, who video called from Denver every Friday night and actually listened when she explained the difference between dolphins and porpoises, who remembered her current interests and asked follow-up questions that showed they'd been paying attention. With Marcus's parents, David and Ann Chen, Sophia was completely herself. She'd run to the computer when they called, eager to show them her latest art project or share a joke she'd learned at school. They remembered details from previous conversations, asked about her friends by name, and celebrated her small victories with genuine enthusiasm. The contrast was stark and, frankly, heartbreaking. But about 6 months ago, something changed with my parents. It started with more frequent phone calls. Instead of their usual monthly check-in, they began calling every couple of weeks, sometimes more. Mom would ask detailed questions about Sophia's school day, her friends, her activities. She wanted to know about her teachers, her favorite subjects, what time she got home from school, whether she walked alone or with friends. At first, I was pleased. Maybe they were finally stepping into their grandparent role. Maybe retirement had given them the time and emotional bandwidth they'd never had when they were working full-time, and I was young and demanding more attention than they knew how to give. Dad started sending Sophia little cards in the mail, not for any special occasion, just random Tuesday surprises with cartoon animals and brief notes like, "Thinking of you, sweetheart," written in his careful block letters. The handwriting was the same as on my childhood birthday cards, but the sentiment felt different, warmer somehow. Sophia was delighted by these unexpected touches of attention. She'd run to check the mailbox every day after school, hoping for another card from Grandpa Victor. When one arrived, she'd carry it around the apartment for hours, showing it to her toys and rereading the simple message multiple times. Mom began asking about our daily routine with what seemed like genuine interest. What time did Sophia leave for school in the morning? When did she come home? Did she walk by herself, or did I pick her up? What route did we usually take to the grocery store? Did we have any regular activities or appointments during the week? I found myself sharing details I normally wouldn't bother with, pleased that they seemed to want a clearer picture of our life.
They seemed fascinated by these mundane details of our life. Mom would ask follow-up questions, wanting to know exactly which route Sophia took to school, whether other children walked the same way, if there were crossing guards at busy intersections, whether she ever deviated from her usual path. "We just want to picture her day," Mom explained when I asked about all the questions. "It helps us feel closer to her, knowing what her routine is like." I told myself they were just trying to be more involved grandparents, to feel connected despite the 4-hour distance between us. It was sweet, really, this newfound interest in their granddaughter's world. After years of polite but distant interactions, I was grateful for any sign of genuine engagement. They even started asking about taking Sophia for a weekend visit, something they'd never suggested before in all her 8 years. "We'd love to have her stay with us sometime," Mom said during one of our calls. "Show her around Medford, take her to that new children's museum. She could see where you grew up, sleep in your old room." The idea of Sophia staying with them had never occurred to me, partly because they'd never shown much interest in extended time with her, and partly because I couldn't imagine her being comfortable in their formal, quiet household. But their enthusiasm seemed genuine, and I thought maybe this was what healthy grandparent relationships were supposed to look like. "She'd probably love that," I said. Though privately, I wondered if Sophia would be bored in their structured, adult-oriented home. "Maybe we could plan something for spring break." "That would be wonderful," Dad said, and there was something in his voice I'd never heard before. Actual excitement about spending time with his granddaughter? 2 weeks before Sophia's 8th birthday, they called with an unusual level of enthusiasm in their voices. "We're planning something special for Sophia's birthday," Mom announced, without her usual small talk about weather and health. "We know you're having her party on Saturday, but we wanted to send something that would arrive early, a surprise." "That's really sweet of you," I said, genuinely touched by their obvious effort to make Sophia's birthday special. "You know you don't have to go to any trouble." "We want to," Dad interrupted, which was unusual. He rarely interrupted anyone, and never with such enthusiasm. "We've been planning this for weeks. We put a lot of thought into it. It's going to be perfect for her." They seemed almost giddy, which was completely out of character from my reserved, practical parents. Mom kept saying things like, "She's gonna love it," and "We put so much thought into this," and "It's exactly what an 8-year-old girl needs." Her voice had a breathless quality I'd never heard before, like a child who can barely contain excitement about a secret. Can you give me a hint about what it is? I asked, caught up in their enthusiasm. No, no, it has to be a surprise, Mom said quickly. Just trust us. We know what we're doing. I was touched by their obvious investment in making Sophia's birthday special. For the first time in my memory, they seemed genuinely excited about giving, rather than simply fulfilling an obligation. Maybe this was the beginning of a real relationship between them and Sophia. Maybe they were finally ready to be the grandparents I'd always hoped they could be. The package arrived on a Thursday afternoon, 2 days before Sophia's birthday party. I was working at my desk when I heard the UPS truck rumble up our street, followed by the familiar sound of the driver's footsteps on our wooden stairs. A few minutes later, there was a knock on the door. The package was bigger than their usual gifts. A medium-sized box wrapped in cheerful yellow paper with a giant pink bow that looked professionally tied. The shipping label showed they'd paid extra for priority delivery, which was unusual for my practical, budget-conscious parents who usually sent things regular mail with plenty of time to spare. When Sophia got home from school that afternoon, she spotted it immediately. Her backpack hit the floor by the door with a thud as she gravitated toward the package like a moth to the flame. "Is that for me?" she asked, her eyes bright with excitement. "It has my name on it." "It's from Grandma and Grandpa Delgado," I told her, reading the return address. "But it's not your birthday until Saturday. They wanted you to have a special early surprise." "Can I open it now? Please, please, please?" She was practically vibrating with excitement, her hands hovering over the package like she was afraid it might disappear if she didn't open it immediately. I hesitated. Part of me wanted to make her wait. Delayed gratification was important, and building anticipation was half the fun of birthdays. But she was so rarely this excited about anything from my parents. This was the most animated I'd ever seen her about a gift from them, and I didn't want to dim that enthusiasm. "I suppose it wouldn't hurt," I said finally. "Go ahead and open it." Sophia approached the package with the reverence of someone who truly appreciated the ritual of gift opening. She carefully untied the bow, trying to preserve it the way I'd taught her. She peeled back the tape on the wrapping paper with methodical precision, folding each piece neatly so it could be reused. Her careful approach to unwrapping gifts was something she had inherited from me, a habit born from years of financial uncertainty when every piece of wrapping paper and every ribbon was too valuable to waste. But it also reflected her thoughtful nature, her appreciation for the ceremony of receiving something special.
Inside the wrapping was a plain cardboard shipping box, the kind used for mailing fragile items. Sophia lifted the flaps and pushed aside a layer of white tissue paper, clearly put there to build suspense and protect whatever lay beneath. And then she stopped moving entirely. I was washing dishes in the kitchen sink, only half paying attention to the unwrapping process, while mentally planning dinner and reviewing my afternoon work schedule. The sound of tearing paper had stopped, but I assumed she was just taking her time with the tissue paper. But when the silence stretched on for more than a few seconds, I looked over. Sophia was sitting perfectly still on the living room floor, cross-legged beside the open box, staring down at whatever was inside with an expression I'd never seen before. Her face had gone completely blank, not confused exactly, but utterly still, in a way that made my stomach clench with sudden anxiety. "Soph, what is it, honey?" I called, turning off the water and drying my hands on a dish towel. She didn't answer immediately. She just sat there, frozen, looking down into the box like she was trying to solve a puzzle that didn't make sense. Then she looked up at me with those big brown eyes that usually sparkled with curiosity and mischief, but now held something else, something that might have been fear, or confusion, or both. "Mommy," she said in a small, careful voice that was nothing like her usual confident chatter, "what is this supposed to be?" And that's when I knew something was very, very wrong. I dropped the dish towel and walked quickly to where Sophia sat frozen beside the open box. My heart was already beating faster, that maternal instinct kicking in when something feels wrong with your child. "What do you mean, sweetheart?" I asked, trying to keep my voice calm and casual. "What's in there?" Sophia looked back down into the box, then up at me again. Her 8-year-old face was scrunched in genuine confusion, like she was trying to solve a math problem that didn't add up. "I don't understand it," she said quietly. Is it Is it supposed to be a toy? I knelt down beside her and peered into the box. At first glance, it looked innocent enough. There was something wrapped in more tissue paper, clearly the main gift, and what appeared to be a folded piece of paper, probably a card or instructions. But something about Sophia's reaction made me hesitate. She wasn't excited anymore. She wasn't disappointed either. She just looked confused and maybe a little uncomfortable, though I couldn't put my finger on why. Well, let's see what it is, I said, reaching for the tissue-wrapped item. Maybe there's a card that explains it. Mom, wait, Sophia said, catching my hand. I think maybe we should call Grandma and Grandpa first to make sure this is right. That stopped me cold. In all her 8 years, Sophia had never suggested calling my parents about anything. She barely knew their phone number.